Ram trucks built to serve.
Back here on First Things First, and we are joined by former All-Pro running back Brian Westbrook.
Good morning.
Great to see you here.
Good morning, man.
Good to see you, man.
Hey, he was talking about the fight. Like, we're all so into this fight. Everyone's into it. Who are you taking?
I'm going to Deontay Wilder. I think that right hand is vicious, and I think that he wants it a little bit more than Tyson Fury.
Fury's already mentioned the R word, retirement after. So I don't like that going in. I just don't like hearing that going into a fight.
It's a box.
It's a box. It's in the back of your mind.
When you start thinking about it, you start your training kind of goes.
So Breeze shouldn't come back and play either?
Well, it's a little bit different. Different games. It's just different.
Hey, mention the R word.
All right. Well, it's only February, Brian, although I appreciate seeing you as a frequent at Brooklyn Nets games. But let's discuss some playoff football where the structure could reportedly change under the current CBA proposal. 7 teams from each conference will make the playoffs with only 1 bye per conference. So, Brian, what do you make of this?
Well, for me, I love playoff football. I love meaningful football games. I love the fact that it's either win or go home. And so anytime that I, as a fan, as an analyst, as a fan, that I could buckle in Saturday and watch football all day long, then wake up the next day, Sunday, wild card weekend, and watch football all day long. I'm right in my zone at that point. Now, that's as a fan and as an analyst. As a former player, I'm kind of putting the 17-game season and the 7-team wild card and the playoff situation almost in the same boat, even though they may not be in the same boat. As a former player, I'm saying, well, hold on. If the Kansas City Chiefs were in this 17 playoff situation, they would have had to play 2 more games in 17 games. They would have had to play 2 more games. So they would have had to play the 17th game of the season and the first week of the playoffs. So to me, I'm looking at the wear and tear of my body. I remember after 16 weeks of the regular season, the wear and tear of my body was just like, well, hold on. I don't know if I have enough to make it into the playoffs. And so I'm always concerned about that. I think as younger players, you're always thinking dollar signs. You're thinking, hey, how much more money can I get? You're more so worried about that. As a veteran player, I was thinking about how many more years can I get? Can I get another year on my contract? And so I think those couple games, when you add a 17th game and maybe 1 more game of the playoffs, as a former player, I start to worry about the condition of the guys that are actually in the game.
You bring up a great point. It's not only for your longevity, how many more years can you play when you add possibly 2 games a year, but also the quality of the play. Like what we saw from Patrick Mahomes, we loved, right? But if he has to play 2 more games, does he still have that? Do the rest of the players still have that? Are they playing at that high level? Look, I'm not a big fan of the 17th game, and I think the reason they're expanding the playoffs in their proposal is to the players to say, look, you'll get more games, you'll get an extra team in the playoffs. That's playoff money for another group of players. That's what they're giving the players to get the 17th game. I think the players should want much more. I think they should want health care benefits after retirement. Maybe, if you can, I know football's different than the other sports, but more guaranteed money, somehow try to work. Like, one extra team in the playoffs is not enough if I'm a player to get me to go to 17 games.
Well, let's start with the breakdown, and I know you're combining the two because it's a bigger discussion, but apparently the playoff thing's already agreed to, right? It's happening, get on board, and it makes sense from this perspective. It's not just the added game and the added money, it's the added importance to week 16 and 15 and 17. Even without the 17th game, there's so many more teams involved in trying to get that last playoff. It keeps you from tanking. It's one of the things that baseball is trying to do by expanding their playoffs is keep those teams that are right on the borderline from selling off those pieces from tanking, because tanking has now become part of football, which it never was. That's the great thing about football is because guys are worried about getting cut, they always played hard, and we don't get the sense that some of these franchises are as invested in winning even from the start of the season. That, I think, cuts that out. So the playoff thing is happening. I don't like it because, just from the playoff perspective, it disproportionately rewards that 1 seed, as you point out, the more games. And here's a basketball analogy for us, right? If you play pickup ball, okay, do not ever play a game where a 3 counts as 2 and a 2 counts as 1. because that disproportionately values the three-point shot. It shouldn't be worth twice as much, right? It's already probably overvalued as a 3 as opposed to 2, right? That's what this is doing. This is disproportionately rewarding a 1 seed, because oftentimes a 1 seed, not necessarily this year, but maybe with the Niners, they had a softer schedule at the start of the year. The Ravens did not. The Ravens just kicked everybody's ass and they were the 1 seed, right? But it disproportionately rewards a 1 seed, whereas everybody else, I got to play another game? I don't get a bye week? You know, I just won my division?
Well, if your goal is to get more meaningful games during the season, not have load management type of situation where you're not playing all those things, now teams are worried about getting that 1 seed so they can try to get that first round bye. So it kind of goes hand in hand just a little bit there, don't you think?
Yes, it does, but you're going to have one team do it, okay? And as Chris pointed out, the Patriots have never won a Super Bowl when they have had a bye. Was the last 7 years?
The last 7 years, both teams in the Super Bowl have had a bye. So it's a huge advantage. I do think it's disproportionately benefiting that number 1 team.
And then to your point, where you combine the two, now you talk about the 17 games. And look, it's a negotiation. It's all a negotiation. If I'm the NFLPA, okay, and they offer 0.5% more, which is $5 billion over a 10-year deal. Sounds like a ton of money. But when you break it down, it's really $150,000 per player more. Okay, it's not. So, one, I want another 5%, and I need that second bye week. If you're going to add a 17th game and we're all going to make more money, okay, let's make even more money. Let's have another week of football. I mean, this, to me, it's actually kind of an easy fix. The Super Bowl, move it back, play it on President's Weekend, so after Super Bowl Sunday, we can all have the day off because we got to rest up, right?
That probably is something.
So this is, the playoffs appear to be set. They're going to expand it. Everybody's going to make a little bit more money. But if they want to make a ton more money, you want to play that 17th game, give me another bye week, because that takes away the player safety angle of it. That takes away the argument of players elongating their career, and it makes the playoffs make more sense because teams are more rested heading in the playoffs, and so you have a better chance of putting their best foot forward.
There's been a big argument in the NBA, and you guys are both NBA guys, about load management, guys not playing in the games that count. Right. What if it's situations like if you're Drew Brees or Tom Brady, older players that are now saying, instead of 16 games or 17 games of me playing, I'm only going to play 13 because I want to be prepared to play in that first round of the playoffs. That's what I would be worried about if I'm an owner or even a fan, because now at this point I'm saying, if I'm Drew Brees, I only played 12 or so games this year, and I felt good in those 12 games. Right. If I had to play 16, Drew, you saw what that was 2 years ago. He wasn't able to do it successfully, and I'm concerned about the longevity as well as the load management aspect if I had to play that 17th game and the first round of the playoffs.
My initial response to that is, Tom Brady or whoever usually couldn't afford to take off 4 games and their team still make the playoffs. But you're right. I mean, it happened with New England or New Orleans.
And New England.
Yeah, when he's been hurt. Yeah.
When it was suspended.
That's right.
But I would hate, I don't like seeing it in basketball. I would hate to see it in football. And now, the owners may not care if the fans still show up, if the TV ratings are still there, but I think it would be bad for football if you start having load management.
But we already have guys sitting that 17th game.
That's but even in basketball, before load management, you would have LeBron and a few guys sit out that last week, week and a half.
But we already have it in the NFL. They're already.
But nobody's taking off
in the middle of the season.
Right, in the meat of the season.
They should. Right? It's actually really smart. You should, if you have a quality backup, absolutely let him take a beating.
Well, how many teams in the NFL have quality backup?
They don't. Which brings me to the other point that I think NFL teams would be smart to negotiate is you got to expand the roster. Yeah. 46 on game day is not enough. 53 is not enough. You expand the roster, but again, that means you're going to have to get more of that money because that 5% that seemed $5 billion, the 0.5% that seemed it gets smaller and smaller when you expand the roster.
I think that'll hurt. Look, if I turn on the TV on Sunday and I'm watching the Patriots and the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes and Tom Brady aren't playing, I am upset.
Yeah, of course.
I'm upset.
Just like when you watch the NBA and the Spurs.
But the NBA, at least they got 82 games. I mean, in the NFL, that's one of the benefits is you only have the 16, 17 maybe games. Yeah. Each
NBA
one is
huge. Trying to shorten the season. NFL's
I wish they would.
Extend it. Brian,
65?
stick around. Coming up, will Tom Brady be the most desired free agent this offseason? That's next on First.